Have you ever had one of those mornings where you wake up, you have a plan, and like within 5 minutes, your child is having a meltdown over math, and you start thinking, am I really cut out for this? So if that's you, please stay with me till the end because I have some insight to give you from personal experience. Let's dive in. Today, I want to share with you why those feelings are completely normal and the real reasons that so many parents think about quitting and what you can do instead to help make the decision on what's right for your family. So what can you expect today? Today, we're going to share the common frustrations that are experienced by homeschool families, the mindset shifts that you can make that will help to adjust some of that perspective and outcome, and practical encouragement so you don't give up, and insight so you can reflect and think about what's really right for your family. Now, just a little background here. I am not an all or nothing homeschool mom. I had one son that actually went back to the traditional classroom experience for high school, and I have one that homeschooled through high school, and I graduated him last year, and he's now in college thriving. So just know that I come from the perspective that it's not an all or nothing thing. I think that it can be very personal to each individual family, and I'm not here to convince you one way or another. I'm here to give you some ideas to reflect upon, some questions to ask yourself, and also to give you a point of view about what to do in order to continue to stick with it if it really is indeed what's best for your family. So stick around. I think by the end, you're going to be feeling a bit more hopeful and a little lighter, and hopefully walk away with some ideas and strategies that will take some of that weight off of your shoulders. First, let me reassure you that if you've ever thought about quitting homeschool, you are not alone. Every single parent, I guess I can't say 100% of homeschooling parents, but in my experience, I haven't really met a homeschooling parent that hasn't gone through this thought process of like, should we stop? Do I need to put them back in the school system? I even went through this with my own, my older son. Basically, pretty much every single homeschool parent has had this question in their mind, myself included. So that's why I wanted to share this insight with you today and encouragement. And if this is resonating with you, go ahead and push that like button and let me know so that I can see that this is beneficial for my community, because that's what this is all about. So let's talk about some of the reasons that you might have considered quitting. A lot of parents that quit, they typically fall somewhere under one of these categories or overlap in the midst of these categories somewhere. So the first thing I have heard the most is parents feel burned out. And definitely that is a real thing. Often when we're homeschooling, it can feel like we're on duty 24/7. And yet we get this message out in the world that if we don't 100% love 100% of the moments, that somehow we're not the mom other people are. And so I want to set that whole Instagram image aside right now that we see in the homeschool world, and know that if you have those moments where you are not loving the situation, that doesn't mean that you are not a good mom or a good homeschool mom. That makes you a real mom. Sometimes we have situations where a child might be resisting schoolwork, or there might be some battles. And again, I have a lot of strategies I share, not only phonics and learning strategies and ideas, but I also have some ways of interacting with children that can really help make homeschool a more positive experience and help you to understand what that actually looks like, because it probably looks a little different than you're thinking it does. Sometimes we also have situations where you might feel isolated, depending on your community, depending upon the support systems you have. So that can really impact a family's decision or feelings about homeschooling and what's going on in their day-to-day life. And lastly, I also hear a lot of times that families or moms or dads, whoever's doing the bulk of the homeschooling, is comparing homeschooling to the traditional school brick and mortar in-person setting. And that is also something that feels a bit discouraging, because if we're trying to replicate that at home, you're going to get very frustrated. And again, to circle back to the beginning point, you're going to get burned out. So if any of that sounds familiar, you are not broken, you are human, and there are some ways we can address that. But again, I do want to upfront say, if at the core, having your child be in school is the right decision for them and is the right decision for your family, there's no shame in that either. This is a case-by-case basis. Again, I have a son that he is graduating from a high school classroom situation, right? Like he went back from, we did a PSP, we did a charter, and then he told me, hey mom, this is what I want to do. And so, that was something we had to discuss and work with. But again, this is about doing what's right for your family, but it's also about having some points to reflect on to make sure that you don't make a decision simply out of frustration. So the first thing I want to remind you of is that struggles are normal. It's a normal part of life, and it can actually be something we can model for our children. So if you have some days that are difficult, you feel like throwing in the towel, that is completely normal. And honestly, even in the classroom, like as a teacher, we have those days. And so that was one positive thing for me. I kind of took with me knowing, all right, we had a bummer of a day, and we're just going to pick up tomorrow, and maybe we're going to take a step back right now. And that's another really great thing I want to share with you. Sometimes you just need to pause the day and do a do-over the next day. And that's okay. It's okay to say, hey, this isn't working for us today. For whatever reason, we're not at our best. You know what? Let's take, a mental health day or whatever you want to call it, but let's take a step back. That's actually modeling for your child real life strategies. Number 2, try shifting your perspective of what success looks like. Remember, homeschooling is not replicating in-person school at home. It's not a 6.5-hour day. It is much, much different. I have videos that go over things like that and concepts about how to structure your day and schedules, and how that really isn't to be compared to a classroom setting. But really shifting your thinking about what your day looks like and starting at a small point of success and building upon that can be very critical. So if you say, all right, we're having a hard time getting through this, we're going to start with 5 minutes. And then tomorrow, maybe we do 7. Those are small wins. So shift your perspective, find the small wins, and build upon it. And another little bit of insider knowledge, finishing a whole lesson is not the definition of success. The definition of success is that your child made one step closer in progress to understanding a new concept. Maybe they didn't understand the whole concept, but you planted the seeds, and tomorrow you're going to work on it again. So if they didn't get it today, that's okay. Work on it for 5 minutes, work on it the next day again for 5 minutes, and build like that. But shift your perspective of what it really looks like to be successful, because success isn't that they got the concept today. It's that you laid the foundation and you're going to build upon it the next day. And here's the great news, and also my next tip. Tip number 3 is that the great news is homeschool is meant to be personalized. Now, it doesn't mean we're not teaching our children structure or how to have organization, but it does mean that we're teaching them to meet the challenges of day-to-day life. And sometimes that means that the day didn't go the way that we intended it to go. And how are we going to deal with that? So just keep in mind that you can personalize something. If the lesson that you did today didn't work, figure out a different way to teach them the same skill. I have lots of ideas, especially for learning how to read and phonics, of ways that you can do things differently and try new approaches. So just because one way didn't work doesn't mean that there's not going to be something else that will work for your child. So if you're considering quitting, here's my reminder. Really reflect upon the reasons and the background of what's going on, and know that you are probably doing a whole lot better than you think. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do it all every day. Just keep showing up, model for your children, and look for the resources that can help you in the areas that you need help. And remember, if you do decide that you are indeed going to go back to a brick and mortar traditional classroom setting, that doesn't mean you failed either. That can absolutely be just the situation that your child needs or your family needs, like it was for me. And it wasn't a point of failure at all. In fact, the ability to respond to my child, have those discussions, and understand his point of view was in reality a success, right? Even though it meant that he didn't continue on a homeschool journey. So I do want to give that balanced approach and let you know there's more than one point of consideration to consider when we make such important decisions. So before we go, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know any questions you have about this. Let me know what the hardest part of homeschooling has been for you and what you would like to hear more about so that I can plan my videos for what my community needs. Let me know what you'd like me to make a video on in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so that I can get this information out to more people and help families everywhere teach their children to read with joy and to homeschool, or just help their child through school with confidence.